Ready. Check, check. This is an audio check on SPL. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello?
Still running an audio check on SPL. Good afternoon.
Looks like you might need to drive the port. It's not coming over.
This is an audio slate for dive H1825. UTC time is 23:07:20 on my mark. Mark.
That's relatively straightforward. Faintly surprised when you go in that rather than lateral across before the tether come tight, you just change your head and drive across and then straighten that out again.
Sure.
But you can't wait till the tether comes tight because then you can't turn, right?
Yeah, yep.
Hello, hello.
Hello there, Marley.
Oh, I
Levels. Hey.
have to get my 2 words in, right? Hi there. Hello. She's not listening. She doesn't have her headset on.
I'm listening, Kim.
Oh, you're sweet. But do you care? And down. And down. Hello. Down. Okay, it's not moving.
If it's not, you'll have to ignore the stops that you just set and go down.
I knew that.
Becomes kind of silly, doesn't it, at that point?
It sounds kind of sidus. Sidus. Yes. That's the, it's the name of the manufacturer. I think it means silly in Latin. Are the lawyers listening? I've never bought anything from those people that actually worked. Okay. Typically, with other sleds that I've worked on, when you stop at 50 meters, check the gauges, make sure like nothing's in trouble. It's all good. Lovely. And the other thing. How do I do this? It's all good. Getting ahead of you a little bit. What? It'll be fine.
Everything's fine.
So Aaron kept telling me the first couple of weeks I was on board, it'll be fine. At some point I said to her, if you say it'll be fine one more time, I'm gonna scream.
All right, this is an audio slate for dive number 1825. UTC time is 23:17:41. Mark.
Would it be correct in assuming this shows anything anyway? It's interesting how spherical that feature is. It's got to be a vent. Thanks for being gentle. Thanks for being gentle with that. Of course it's a of course it's a vent, you dolt. That's why we're diving here.
Sorry, for transits or? Mm. Yeah, yeah, around there. That's nice enough for them to still get their zooms and stuff like that. Yeah, sure thing. We're supposed to look how fast, Bill.
Yeah, I suppose I don't want 2 hours of stills, blue water, like we got yesterday. um,
The water looks very nice there in the webcam there. Yeah, beautiful texture. Look at the water. Yeah, lovely copper turn. Gorgeous.
I don't suppose there's anyone keenly watching this. Keenly watching this. My mom asked me to give her a heads up when we were going to dive on the octopus, which I did. I don't know if I mentioned it would take us 2 hours to get to the bottom. I hope she's not watching this. Here's a fun fact for you. When another organization that I work for, did some number crunching, and they looked at all the overheads, the cost of like mobilizing, getting ship out on site, all the on-hire staff, basically all the costs all in, distributed over the actual bottom time that we logged on average, and we figured out it cost $1 a second. So if we were always irked by the suggestion that it was just a really expensive video game, and our stock answer thereafter was, "Oh yeah, it's a video game. Sit down, have a turn. Just put $1 in the slot every second."
That is a very, very expensive arcade. Yeah. That's very interesting though. $1 a second.
All right, welcome everybody that's watching on the inner tubes. You are watching us descend about 2 miles deep in the ocean We're here at a site near Davidson Seamount called the Octocone. And for the next 20 to 24 hours, maybe, we'll be investigating this volcanic cone that has a population of octopus mothers at the summit that have attached their eggs to rocks that are within warm water vents. We're going to do a full investigation in that area, take some measurements before we head west to a whale fall that we discovered last year on the Nautilus. And we're going to do some collections there for some of the animals that we've found and get some good imagery. But just welcome, and we should, I think we'll be down in about 2.5 hours or so at the bottom. It takes about 3 hours to descend these 2 miles. It's part of the process.
Hi, everyone, and you might hear me chiming in sometimes too. My name's Amanda Kahn, and I'm with Moss Landing Marine Laboratories. I'm joining in to look for any sponges and identify some of the sponges and corals and the fauna that we see as we're going through and exploring these sites. I am not on the ship, whereas Chad is, which is pretty neat. I am getting the same view as you all are out there, actually, of how the dive is going and what we can see. So I'm really excited about the whale fall because a year ago there was still blubber on it, and it looked kind of fresh. I think we estimate it was probably only a few weeks old.
Estimates at the time were about 4 months or so, which sounds old, but it's not, right? Because there are about 75 whale falls that have been documented around the world, but the majority of those were old, you know, down to just bones. So it's rare to come across one that was so relatively fresh, and that's what part of this dive is going to try and accomplish, because these things are so rare. It's even rarer, more rare, to come back a year later to see how much it's changed, because it's hard to get out to the deep sea. These things are hard to find.
Yeah, and it'll be neat to see what animals are still there and which ones have been replaced or changed. So, you know, everything's so slow paced, and then with something like a whale fall, it's a feast and constantly changing.
Yeah, we don't, like Amanda said, we don't know exactly what we're going to find. So it's going to be interesting to see how the community's changed. Last year, although the whale fall was mostly bone, in the sense of most of the flesh was gone from the primary scavengers, and those are things like larger sharks and things of that nature. When we were there, there were still a lot of primary/secondary scavengers there, a bunch of different kind of fishes, octopus, crustaceans, and those aren't the guys that are taking big, large chunks away. Those are the ones that are kind of picking, if you will, at the carcass. But there was still baleen, there was blubber kind of in a halo around the whale, and there was still significant amount of heart tissue. In fact, I think you could see the aorta. It was a very large artery in there. But there were a bunch of bone-eating worms, very interesting animal that was only discovered in 2002, that don't have a mouth or a gut, but drill into the bone to access the fatty lipids, bring it into their body cavity, and they start to break it down, but it's not digested. It's digested by the bacteria that live symbiotically within their body cavity. So the bacteria get a home in food. In exchange, the worm itself gets food in the form of carbon from the animal itself. It's pretty cool.
They're super cool. I love it too. They, you know, the genus of these worms is called Ossidax, and you know, they're the bone-eating worms, and it sounds so metal. And in fact, there's a heavy metal rock band that took the name the Ossidax, I guess inspired by the bone-eating waves.
So Amanda introduced herself. I forgot to do the same. My name is Chad King, and I'm on the research team at Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and we are diving in our sanctuary. Davidson Seamount has a box around it that was added to our sanctuary in 2008, primarily for the large and amazing corals and sponges that we found along the slopes and summit of this undersea extinct volcano. So we needed to protect it, and the government concurred, and it was added 12 years ago. But what we didn't know was what was down at the base, kind of the foothills of the mountain itself. So in 2018, we were looking at these rocky outcrop areas several miles off the mountain itself, but still within the sanctuary, to see what kind of distribution and abundance of corals and sponges and other fauna was out there. And that's when we came across the incredible octopus garden that no one could have guessed was here. It was the first of its kind discovery on the west coast of the United States of North America. Really the only the second one in the world. And it's the first so far documented to have viable hatching. So we've seen dozens and dozens of baby octopus hatching. It's been pretty incredible. So we've been back a couple of times with Nautilus, with the Alvin, with Bari, and we're doing a lot of work on it. So it's been pretty incredible. But I'm chief scientist for this cruise, and hopefully we can bring some interesting stuff today. So even though Amanda's not, oh, go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, it's all right. We're talking over each other.
We had simultaneous thoughts. I was just going to say, Amanda is not on the ship, and normally we're able to bring 6 or 7 scientists aboard like we did the last 2 years. Unfortunately, in the reality of this pandemic, that's just not possible, but it is quite remarkable that Ocean Exploration Trust has been able to implement safety protocols to make this a very safe environment with a bunch of different protocols. But I am on this ship. I got on this morning, the last couple of days. I've been participating on watch leads from my office at home in my pajamas most of the time. So this is definitely, it's better to be on the ship, but it's pretty amazing with the technology that's available today that Amanda and the other people on the science crew will be leading and participating in these watches from their homes with a near real-time video feed and the ability to talk with those on the ship and direct the pilots and talk to the navigator and really effectively be able to participate and lead dives from shore.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal opportunity to still be able to be involved from shore. And I will say I've had like dreams of maybe bringing my beloved cats out with me while going out to sea. And I've got to say, I've got like a co-pilot with me right here. Marbles, my kitten, is sitting next to me, and Romeo's sleeping over there. So, it's not all bad. And I am wearing pajamas right now. Yeah, it is really nice to also be talking to you, Chad, and knowing what's going on physically on the ship, because one of the great things, which you can see on the quad cam view, is just how many people are involved in making this whole operation work. The ROV pilots, the video technicians, the navigators, it's just so cool to all be working on the same team and to be involved. And so to get to do that from shore too, awesome. So great. So I was going to comment on all this white stuff that we're passing by here. Some of it moves, like that little guy wiggling there. So this all is various plankton, various small fish. We've got some jellies or siphonophores. And then we also have lots of unidentifiable sinking stuff. And I just want to say it looks like it's raining upward right now, and that's because we're sinking faster than all of those particles. And I just always think that's sort of mind-blowing when you think about how the deep sea is fed. So there's no photosynthesis down there, so all the food comes from the surface. And here we are racing all of that food as it falls down. It's called marine snow, and that snowfall eventually makes it to the seafloor. But it can take hours for really large particles like us to days or even weeks or months for smaller particles to sink down that far from the surface. It's a long journey. We're about a third of the way down to the expected seafloor bottom where we're descending. So we're at about 1,060 meters, and we're going to 3,300 meters. Over 2 miles.
According to instrumentation we have on the vehicle, that should take 97 minutes.
Ooh, it has an estimate for that. That's really handy. Does the vehicle have an altimeter that tells it, or is it more like you tell it what the expected bottom depth will be, and then it can estimate it based on the speed from that?
We input the bottom depths, and the vehicle has an indication of vertical velocity, and fortunately it does the math for us.
Yeah, I was off at SPO for a while. I have a question for the van. I don't know if anyone in here can answer the question. We have the optode wand installed on the ROV that has been piped into Grafana, and is at about 32 or something like that minutes ago. All three variables flattened out, at a sharp angle, and they've been the same.
Oh, yes, it's because the optoid is off, so
Oh,
I only jogged it to, it should be on now.
no worries.
I
That's
only,
why I asked the questions. Cool.
let me know if you don't get a signal from it.
Nope, it looks like it's coming right back here.
Great.
And it is cool. 3.56 degrees.
Yeah. So for those of you out on the internet, we have a special piece of instrumentation borrowed from Jeff Wheat, and it's basically a wand protected by a piece of PVC. It's a sensor at the two sensors at the tip that can measure oxygen concentration and temperature. And this is important because although we have one on the vehicle itself, I think the vehicle would have a hard time inverting itself and sticking that sensor into the cracks and crevices of the seafloor. So we have a wand to do that for us. And so the pilots can take the manipulator arm and grab the wand just like a human arm. And we just kind of point and say, stick it there, stick it there. And that's what they do. And then we get a reading. It takes a little bit to stabilize, but then we can measure how warm the water is escaping from the seafloor as well as its oxygen concentration. So that's an important variable to measure. And what's really cool is our scientists ashore, I didn't know this until today, that they were going to have the ability to do this, but they can actually see those values real time as well on some pretty nifty integrated widgets that OET has put together through the internet, so they can access a website that shows them all the variables on the vehicle, which we've been using for the last couple of days, but that includes this wand that's been integrated into the system. So it's wonderful. So other watches that are not on the van or not on the ship can still see those data.
Chad, I was going to mention to you, I took a look at the backscatter, and that mound next to the cone does not have the same reflectance as the cone. So it'll be interesting to see what that mound kind of shows up as.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised looking at different values and the way it sticks out like a peninsula. It could be one of those sedimentary fingers.
Oh, there's like lobes of,
that comes out. Yeah, so there may not be any basalt there, but there could be potentially small rocks and cracks and fissures that didn't maybe give a high return because they're so small.
Right.
But hey, it's on the way.
Indeed.
Just drive over it.
Looks like we're passing by a squid out there. You can see it flapping its fins on its mantle. Just went off the screen up the top. When we started this dive, we went through a really thick layer of pyrosomes. They're also called sea pickles. These are invertebrates, but they're actually part of the phylum Chordata, which is the same phylum that we are a part of, the chordates. And it's actually a colony of many individuals that makes these tubes that kind of look like clear pickles, and they filter feed and pump water through their bodies to capture minute particles. But since probably about 2014, it seems like there's been a lot more pyrosomes detected than previously. And like I know since 2014, for me, the dives I've been on, we've seen a lot more pyrosomes. So it's interesting to see them again here and just kind of see that there's been this shift where now we see a lot more of them in general. So Chad, I'm seeing the oxygen sampler probe, but is there